Hey everybody, thanks for joining me to talk about similar figures. So what's the difference between similar and congruent? Congruent means that two shapes or two figures are exactly equal. So these two triangles are congruent because they are the exact same size, they have the exact same angles. Similar means you have two shapes with congruent angles but sides that are proportional. So these two triangles have the same angles, but they are not the same size. The second triangle is much bigger than the first triangle, but it is grown at the same rate. All right? So let's take a deeper look at that. So how can you tell if two figures are similar, all right, or if their sides are proportional? So first of all, you have to be able to identify corresponding sides, which is what I talked about in my last video. Then you have to set up ratios for all the corresponding sides in your figures. So let's do that first. Okay, now it's very important that you keep the same order when setting up your ratios. So I'm going to identify this figure, ABC. All of the numbers from ABC I'm going to use for my numerators. So I'm just going to write myself a little reminder of that. ABC is going to be my numerator. All of the numbers from XYZ then are going to be my denominators. And I'm going to write all my ratios in that order. If I don't, I will not get this right. So let's talk about the corresponding sides. Side AB corresponds with side XY. So AB is 6, XY is 4. Side BC corresponds with side YZ. So my ratio is 3/2. Then side AC corresponds with side XZ. So this ratio is 12/8. After I have my ratios, I divide my numerator by my denominator to see if I get the same answer. If I do, they are proportional. So 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And 12 divided by 8 is 1.5. That means that yes, these figures are proportional, they are similar. Now this number right here is called the scale factor. If you only had triangle XYZ, if you only had the values from triangle XYZ and you needed to find the values for triangle ABC, you could multiply them by your scale factor. All right, and then vice versa. If you had all the values for ABC, but you needed to find the values for XYZ, you could divide by the scale factor. All right, we're going to do a few examples. Just two. So let's do this first pair of rectangles. First, we have to identify a couple corresponding sides. All right, 10 corresponds with 15. Now let's just keep this as numerator, denominator. All right. You know what? No, let's switch them. Numerator, denominator. So 15/10. Once again, this larger rectangle is my numerator. The smaller rectangle is my denominator. All right, and then we have sides 21 and 14. Now, I don't have to test the other two sides of my rectangles because they have the same exact values. So I'd just be testing the same ratios over and over again, which isn't really necessary. That's kind of the nice thing about regular quadrilaterals like a rectangle or a parallelogram. They have two pairs of congruent sides, so you only have to do this once. So let's test out 15 divided by 10, which I should be able to do in my head, but I didn't. All right, so 15 divided by 10 is 1.5. 21 divided by 14 is also 1.5. So these two rectangles are similar. So this is a yes. We have two similar rectangles. Let's try out this pair of rectangles. All right. Okay, we're going to put the rectangle, this sides from this rectangle over the sides of this rectangle. So let's do 24 over 18. And let's do 36 over 24. All right, and we don't need to test the other two sides. So, once again, let's do our division. 24 divided by 18. It's going to give us 1 1/3. 36 divided by 24 gives us 1 1/2. So here we have this answer is 1 1/3, and this was 1 1/2. We do not end up with the same scale factor. Therefore, these two rectangles are not similar. They're not proportional. All right. Sometimes when you have a pair of similar shapes, you're going to be missing some information. All right. Namely, we don't have a value for these two sides in this parallelogram. We can use proportions in order to find that missing side. If you remember, proportions are the comparison of two similar ratios. All right. So just like with the last things we did, we're going to set up a pair of ratios. So let's use parallelogram ABCD or ABDC. Let's use ABDC as our numerator. Now I'll just go ahead and identify that. ABDC is our numerator. And parallelogram WXZY is our denominator. All right, so I'm going to match up some corresponding sides here. AC corresponds with WY, so I'm going to set up that ratio, 7 over n. Right, and AB corresponds with WX, so I'm going to set up that ratio, 15 over 8. All right, now to solve for proportions, if you remember, you cross multiply and divide. So we're going to start by multiplying 7 by 8. 7 times 8 equals 56. And then we are going to divide by 15. All right, and this is going to give us our missing side. 3 73/100 is going to be our missing side. All right, let's practice a few more. Okay, here we have a pair of rectangles. This side corresponds to this side. So let's put 10 over 15. Our missing side corresponds to this side. So let's put, I'm going to use a variable instead of a question mark. Let's put x over 24. So now we cross multiply and divide. 10 times 24 will give us 240. Divide by 15, and we find that x equals 16. So that's our missing side. 240 divided by 15 is 16, so that's our missing side. Let's try this pair of triangles down here. Triangles can sometimes get tricky. You just have to make sure that you're definitely using the side that corresponds with the missing side, all right? Especially in the case of like a scalene triangle like we have here. All right, so this 10 corresponds to our missing side, so we have to use it. So let's put 10 over our missing side. I'm going to use an x. Then you can use any other pair of sides. Let's use 8 and 4. They are corresponding. So I'm going to put 8 over 4. Once again, make sure that you are keeping your order consistent. So I'm putting my first triangle over my second triangle. So you have to do 10 times 4. which is 40. Then you have to divide by 8, and you will get your missing side, which is 5. Okay, that's all there is to that. I hope it's not too much, and I hope that you can use it. Thanks.